Welcome back to Russell Does Stuff. Get a little closer to everybody. Maybe a little closer. This is Russell. This is my channel. I had yesterday off. Worked 4 hours and a half, maybe 5 today. And tomorrow I have off. The next day 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 I have off. Why? Because 14 years ago, this was my plan. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life working 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, sometimes 60 hours a week. I didn't want my phone to ring anymore. I want to answer my phone between 8 and 8 o'clock. I have my ringer on my phone off. I've given myself to everybody. You have 140, 160 some customers. You spin the wheel. One of them's going to call you. Some of them call every other day. Some customers call, get in touch with you a couple times a day. That was my life. That phone was my lifeline to my customers. Emails, texting, etc. You know. My life is void of all the stress from everyone else's problems. You know, I used to have this saying, make your problems my problems. And people still try to make their problems my problems. And a lot of those people that wanted to make their problems my problems and never wanted to help me with my problems, I cut them right out of my life. I got to thinking today. I really cared about whether people liked me or not. Now, my customers, it was important that they liked me, you know. And I had one customer named Jackie. And I would do everything and anything for her. She was an older lady who had a lot of trauma in her life. Her husband passed away. She wasn't a very nice person, and I knew that. The only reason she liked me was because she had a problem and I filled it. She had a need and I filled it. Her problem was having somebody reliable to mow her lawn, and she had comfort in the fact that she knew I was going to be at her house every Tuesday at 9 o'clock. And I used to do things for her. I'd come out on hurricanes and help her get her house all squared away and stuff, and help her lift things, get rid of stuff that, you know, she couldn't get rid of because it was too heavy, or, you know. And she would ask me questions and confide in me with stuff. And she has this really nice house. It's like a museum inside her house. All the furniture's nice, beautiful draperies, you know. And once a year, when it got hot out, she would come outside and go, if you need to come in and use the John and get something to drink, just knock on the door and I'll let you in. And every year, believe it or not, I would put that off as long as I possibly could. So around August the 14th or so, if I can live past August 14th out in this heat, I'm doing good. You know, that's like my goal. I would run out of water. I would need ice. And I found myself knocking on her door. And she always greeted me with the same happy vocal expressions. Hi, Russ, what can I do for you? So I need some ice out of your refrigerator. I'm dying here. I'm out of water. Do you need to use the John? I said, no. You know, I got bottles in my truck. I'm good. You know. I don't know why she always wanted me to use her bathroom. I never used her bathroom. I had a rule: never use anyone's bathroom. You know. So she would make me come in her house, go through the living room, and then she would sit me down at her dining room table. Pull up a chair, she'd say, and I'm dirty and I'm nasty. I would sit there in her chair. She would sit across from me and just start talking and telling me all sorts of stuff, you know. I didn't like being inside customers' houses anymore. I wanted to be on the outside of their house. And I knew by sitting there and talking to this lady, I was fulfilling a need she had. All right. But the need she had a line drawn. And you didn't cross that. Our relationship is good enough the way it is what she told me once. And I wanted to be liked by her, you know. And she didn't want to like me the way I thought Russell should be liked. She wanted to keep things strictly business. I'm not trying to date this lady or anything. I'm trying to make a point here that she wanted just to like Russ just enough. So that I never became like a good friend. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine. I get that. Some of my customers I became good friends with, I think. I don't know. I had a lot of relationships with some of my customers where I even had some come to work for me. I had a customer whose daughter passed away, and he's a few years older than me. For about 5 years, I worked for him. He'd walk around in his fancy clothes, smoking a cigar on the phone, ignoring me, you know, spit shine shoes and stuff. When his daughter passed away, his whole life changed. He no longer could function in that job he had. It was in finance or something. And I befriended him, and I tried to fill a need in his life. And I tried to, you know, help comfort him and be there for him. We exchanged phone numbers, and I talked to him for at least a year or so. I had him come to work with me. His wife says, you take Johnny to work with you? I says, yeah. You know, and he ended up always hurting himself. You know, he never did any work, but he always hurt himself. As soon as he got out of my truck, he hurt himself. And I'm like, would you just stop hurting yourself? Okay. And his situation kept getting worse and worse and worse. And one day he came out and he started yelling at me, you know, I need this done in my backyard. And I said, I can't do what you want in your backyard. I need you to help me and point me in the right direction. I said, I can't, Johnny. I can't help you build stairs in your backyard. Whatever he wanted, some platform with stairs. And he looked me right in the eyes and he goes, you're fired. I said, all right, man. And that was the end of it, you know. And he insulted me, you know, with some texts down the road here and there and stuff. And, you know, I don't know how Johnny's doing. And do I care? Yeah, I hope he's all right, you know. But I wanted to be liked by this guy, you know. Is he going to teach me, you know, the financial secrets of the world that he used to buy this massive house and stuff? No, probably not. Is Jackie gonna, you know, give me stock tips? No. So I realized something. I want to be liked a certain way by my customers. I want them to like the fact that I show up and I do a good job, and I want them to send me their money. Okay. I'm not trying to win these people over as good old buddies. You know, I don't want them over at my house drinking beer and stuff. You know, there's a line in between them and us. All right. the manager that I worked for at my large account, that's relationships the same way. I first met him, I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be a part of my life forever, and he's going to come to my bar mitzvah. You know, he's going to come to my wedding. He's going to, you know, he's going to do this and he's going to do that, and we're going to go play basketball together and stuff. No, he looked at the world the way you were supposed to look at it. I like Russell, and I want Russell to be here doing his job, so I don't have to worry or think about it, and I can do other things and worry about the things I need to worry about while functioning in my day. You know, he's never asked me to go to lunch. I bought him a t-shirt for Christmas one year, you know. But that's it. And I've known him 3 or 4 years now, you know. He's not going to come to my house and play a game of pool with me, all right? It's just not going to happen. But when he needs something, like today, he also asked me to come to his house and do some work for him. You know, he's got a problem. He likes me enough to ask me if I'll solve this problem for him. He didn't ask anybody else, he asked me. So that's the kind of like you need to have in business. You know, you want people to like you this much, okay? You know, not going to your wedding that much, okay? I invited a boss to a wedding I was in once, and he showed up. I don't think he had a good time because he only wanted this relationship between us, not this, okay? I guess it's boundaries when you comes right down to it. If the guy I work for has a flat tire, I don't think he's going to call me. He's going to call his good buddy on his hand, okay? So I stopped worrying about how much my customers liked me, okay? You can tell when they like you here, you can tell when they like you here or here, okay? And I want to be liked about this much. And if you're liked about here or here, you know, start planning to find an account to replace that one, okay? It's common sense, writing on the wall type stuff, you know. I stopped being everyone's hero. I don't want those people to like me even down here, okay? Those people should have been liking me this much, and they weren't. And those people are neighbors, kids I went to school with and stuff, you know. I realized this one thing. Everybody I went to school with, I don't hear from them, I don't see them, they don't call me, you know. It was all a big lie. You spent 4 years with all these people, and they didn't tell you, hey, all these people you tried to impress and peer pressure and all that stuff, they're not going to be around after you're out of school. You'll never see any of them. One person I did see, you know, in and out of my life, you know, he was the one exception, but he never wanted to, he pretended to be this type of friend, but he wanted in secrecy to keep me here because he needed me for lots of things. Never asked me if I needed him for anything. I wanted him to teach me how to sell merchandise on eBay. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I see what he's doing. I'm like, I want to do this. I like putting things in a box and slapping some tape on it and jamming a label on it and kicking it out the door. I mean, that to me, I love that. Get that tape gun out and just be gluing cardboard boxes together all day. You know, he never ever said, hey, come on over and sit on my knee. Let me show you how to sell on eBay. Never. 30 years he's been in that eBay business. Never once said, hey, you want to, and I asked him, hey, let me hang out with you for an hour or so. Show me what, you know, show me the ins and outs of this. No, he wasn't worried about me, you know, learning his secrets and going out on my own and duplicating what he got. Because he had a buddy that you know, was in the warehouse next door, and he was doing the same thing he was doing, you know, and they weren't worried about, you know, hiding, you know, secrets and contacts and stuff. Well, maybe a couple contacts where they got a lot of their clothing from. They would hide from each other, you know. But I cut these people out that pretended to like me this much when they really liked me about that much. And that's all right. Once you can figure that out, it'll help you in your business, you know. Show up, be responsible, have your customers like you. This line here is trust. They know you're responsible, you know. You haven't stole anything from them, you know. You didn't shoot a rock into their car when you rode by it with your mower. Or if you broke something in their yard, you know, you're going to fess up. And I had a property manager's Jeep with a little rock. Brand new Jeep, she just bought it. You know, she parked right in my way. By the time I noticed what was going on, I had shot a 1,000-mile-per-hour rock into her brand new possession she bought. Knocked on the door, walked in the house. You know, I might have snapped off a quick joke. You know, I like the if milk's so good for you, why do cows only live 10 years? And said, hey, your Jeep's got a dent in it. And then I shut up. I let her get it all out. She was mad. Oh my goodness. You know. Then she calms down. We go out and we look at the little thing, and I said, I can fix it for you. Or you can just not worry about it. Just roll with it. Her husband even said, you shouldn't have parked there. You know Russ is out working in the yard, you know. So anyway, that's a quick couple stories about me realizing and figuring out just how much I need and want my customers to like me. Here's good. You can build a really good business on this. People will pay you when they like you this much. Not so much down here. You'll be the last thing they think about and the last person that they'll pay. I work for this large corporation. Okay? They like me about this much because I have to call them every month and remind them, don't forget to pay me. Pay who? You that guy Russell that works his butt off for you, you know, makes your place look good? Him. That guy. That guy. I think we have somebody, tall guy? In his 50s? Yeah. Oh yeah, him. All right, we'll look into it. So, I'm going to do a video on sales. I think it's really important that people in our stratosphere hear some of the things that I've learned and some of the things I do every day. Okay, it's like a bicycle. I haven't forgot how to sell. I stopped selling for a long time because I just didn't want to. If I sold something, that means I had to go do more work, or I had to do this or that. You know, for 4 years I don't want to sell anything to anybody. That means I have to talk to them. You know, I have to make sure they like me about this much. I have to, you know, now I gotta, you know, come up with a plan and work my plan and all that stuff. No, I didn't want to do any of that. So I'm gonna make a video on what I do when I'm selling myself or something to somebody. Okay, and might do it tomorrow morning, might do it the next day. I'm trying to still remember, you know, some of the ins and outs of how I can put what I do into words. Okay, when I've had people work for me before, it's easy when you're right here next to me and we're at a customer's home, or we're getting a phone call, or we're making a phone call, to implement that kind of stuff and then talk about what we did wrong and what we did right. So I want to put that together. I think it'd be a big help for everybody. and then everybody can enroll in Russell's School of Hard Knocks and buy my 9-month program and be just like me when you graduate. So this is Russell with Russell Does Stuff. Thanks for stopping by my channel. If you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. If you're just passing through, hit the like and subscribe button. Help a stranger out. Help somebody grow his channel out. Until the next time, this is Russ.